Guys, good morning. All right, so let's start with the very first DML statement, and that's insert. So using an insert statement, what we can do is like we can create a new record inside an object. So let me try to take a program for this, and then I'll going to explain you. Now, as a part of the best practices, what is being recommended by the Salesforce, we should always we should always keep this in mind that whenever we are using any DML statement, whenever we are using any DML statement, we should not use inside a loop. See, this is something which is same as the best practices of using SQL as well. Even though if you are writing a query or if you are writing a DML statement, in both of the cases, if you are writing an SQL query or maybe if you are writing a DML statement, in both of the cases, you should avoid writing them inside loop. And that loop could be anything. Although I have written for loop because in most of the cases we generally use for loop. But this statement is about loop. That means even though if you are designing, if you are using uh, a while loop or maybe a do while loop, the best practice is same. We should never write either a SQL query or a DML statement. We should never write it within a loop, because in that case, it's highly chances that it's going to hit the governor limit, and you probably would going to get the system.limit exception. That is the first thing. So, and the second thing, we should always use a process of bulkification. We should always use a process of bulkification. So even though if you are iterating, for example, if you wanted to insert 100 records, 200 records, more than 200 records, that doesn't mean you actually would require to fire that much number of DMLs. You always have to follow a process of bulkification. Now, what is this? The process of bulkification? I'm just showing you that with the help of this program. So we have a use case wherein we wanted to insert, let's say, 200 hiring manager records. I wanted to insert hiring manager records. Inside hiring manager, there's an object called hiring manager, and we wanted to create 200 records inside that object. Now, using one insert, we can insert one record. Does this means I would require 200 insert statements for that? That is what we are going to see. The answer obviously is not. वैसे भी, yesterday we have seen about the governor limits. We cannot fire 150, more than 150 DMLs in a single program. We cannot fire, we cannot use more than 150 DMLs. Because in that case, we are going to get this error system.limit exception. Too many DML statements, 151. And with this program, we wanted to insert 200 hiring manager records. So are we going to use 200 insert for this? The answer is no. We would follow the process of bulkification. We would follow the process of bulkification, and we just would require one DML statement. With that one DML, we can insert 200. We can even insert 10,000 records, up to 10,000. 200 is a very small thing. All right. So let's take this program. So I'm going to the developer console and I would be creating a class over there. Let me close out everything first of all. I would be creating a class. Let me create a new class, a class called, let's say, DML utility class. All right. So my intention over here is to insert 200 hiring manager records. This is our intention. For this use case, I would be creating a separate method. So let me create a method like public static void insert bulk HR records. Insert bulk HR records. You can give any name to the method. Try to always give relevant names so that even the name itself would reflect what this method, what type of business logic this method actually is implementing. All right. Okay. Now let me show you what does it means by a process of bulkification. See, the bulkification, whenever we follow the process of bulkification, which actually is a best practice, we would always require a collection. We would always require a collection. And in most of the cases, this collection is a list collection. So what I'm going to do would be like, I would be creating a collection, a list collection. For that, I would require the API name. So I'm going with your hiring manager object. I am expanding and I'm looking into view object. So this is the API name, hiring underscore manager underscore C. I would be creating a collection, a list collection of this. Let me give any name for this, LST HR records equals to new. Let me copy this whole statement. New list collection and make this as a default constructor. So this is how like we define a collection and that is known to us. So the process of bulkification, whenever we are implementing this, we require a collection. That's step number one. That's step number one. Now in step number two, let me design a for loop because I wanted to insert 200 records. All right. Because I wanted to insert 200 records. So I would be iterating this for loop for next 200 times. So I'm defining integer counter equals to, let's say 1. Counter is less than or equals to 200 and then counter plus plus. So this loop would be going to get iterated for next 200 times. All right. Now inside in the loop, I would prepare the record to get inserted. So I would prepare the record inside the loop. Whenever you wanted to store a data inside an object, all this although have been discussed, this already have been discussed, and even though I have taken some similar programs in the past, basically this program we already have taken. All right, but chalo wo ek alag baat thi. That I mean, with that discussion I was trying to explain you the use of objects, and how with the help of a program you can insert the records, right? That was our intention that time. Chalo. So Abhi. So whenever we wanted to refer, like see, if you wanted to insert a record inside an object, like for example, hiring manager, even though if you would go with the new button, you can see that these all are the fields of that object. So what you have to do, you have to insert the record, what is the name, and then what is the contact number, isn't it? Like you always have to do that. Similarly, even though when you are creating a record from the programming, you also would require to refer those fields. Now, object, according to ORM, the concepts of ORM, what we have studied, object, relationship, and mapping, we know one thing. We know one thing, that every object is a class. Hiring manager is a class. Account is a class. Contact is a class. Opportunity, every one of them is a class. And the fields inside these classes, like name, contact number, senior HR, whatever the fields, those refers to the variables of the classes, members of the classes, isn't it? So whenever, if we would consider that hiring manager is a class, if I wanted to refer the members, if I wanted to call the members, I first of all would require to create an object of a class. You cannot refer the member of a class directly. You always would require to create an object. So how to create an object? That's pretty simple. Name of the class, give any name to the object like HR record equals to, again, new name of the class, make it a default constructor. So this is how like we prepare an object of a class, right? All right, we prepare an, let me modify the statement. Create a local object of the class. Create a local object of the class. All right. So that's what I have created. Now with the help of this, I would be creating records. Now with the help of this, I would be create the record of the object. Like, so I would require this object name, HR record dot, let's say, name. That equals to maybe like DML HR record, and let me also append the value of counter. Let me append the value of the counter. The counter is this one. So it would become like DML HR record number 1, number 2, number 3, like this. And then HR record dot, let's say location. Location is a pick list. So you always have to supply a value which is present inside a pick list. You cannot supply any another value. Otherwise, it would not accept it. And it's going to give you the error for this. And then dot. I have a field called HR email ID. So I would be giving like DML HR record. No, why I'm writing it like this. DML HR record. Now let me give the value of counter over here. So that becomes 1. That becomes 1. Plus, again, I want to append few things. So I would be like @testdml.com this way. And then HR records dot We have contact number as well. So let me give the contact number. This is going to be same for all 200 records. 7766889900. Right. All right. So once this has been if I would go back and I'll see hiring manager have name, contact number, these two, and add ID. These three of them seems to be the mandatory field, whereas this one is I have created to implement the self relationship, and we have Nagpur as well. All right. So for every field which is required, we have supplied the data. For every field which is required, we have supplied the data. Now see what usually what the mistake usually everyone tries to do at this point is like, once you know that you have created a record, you directly use insert statement. What you wanted to insert this record. And this is the mistake. This is the mistake which, usually at this point, people used to commit. So if you are doing it like this, then it is very definite that you are going to hit the governor limit and you are going to get the error for this. Let me try to show you this. All right, I'm saving this. I'm saving this. And if I would now wanted to execute this, so what is going to be happen? Let's see. So my class name is DML utility. I would be calling this DML utility dot. The method name is insert bulk, and see what is going to be happen when I would press this execute button. So it was trying to insert all of those records after 150. 150 it got, the loop, because the loop is executed more than 150 times. We have designed it on 200. So now you get the system.limit exception, too many DML statements, 151. So this is the reason why we should not write down a DML inside a loop. Because if the loop was going to execute it more than 150 times, you definitely would going to get this error. So that's the reason, that's the reason we have to follow the best practices. So instead of inserting each record, instead of inserting individual records, I would rather follow the process of bulkification, and that process means I have defined a collection over here. We have defined a collection list of hiring manager, right? So what I'm going to do would be like, instead of inserting that record directly to the object, I would rather insert that record to the collection. This record, what we have created, this record, what we have created. Now, instead of inserting that record directly to the object, we would follow the process of bulkification. And according to bulkification, we would require a collection that already I have defined. I am going to add this record, and all of those record, like this loop is going to be iterated for 200 times. So every time when the loop is getting executed, I would be adding that record to my collection. I'm inserting that record to collection rather inserting them directly to the object. So lsthr record dot add. Add is the method. You know this. Add is the method to insert the record inside a collection. What I wanted this. I wanted this to be get inserted. So this is the process of bulkification. So what is going to be happen in this case? This loop would execute for 200 times. Every time a record is getting created with all these details, that record would going to be get added to this collection. So when this loop will be terminated, when this loop would be terminated, after this point, when cursor come over here, we can say that loop is being terminated. A loop has been executed for 200 times, and we can say that 200 records have been added. 200 hiring manager records have been added to this collection. Now I would insert the collection only. But again, there's a best practice to get follow. Although you can directly write down an insert statement, but I always used to say whenever you are dealing with a collection, as a best practice, you should always try to check for the null pointer exception. So I'm going to do the same thing. If this collection, which is LSTHR records, if not of this collection dot is empty. If this collection is not empty, that means it contains certain records. So if this collection contains the record, only in that case, I would going to perform the insertion of LSTHR records. I would be performing this insertion of LSTHR records. I would be going to insert this record, right? Let me now try to save this first of all. And before executing this, let's go to the hiring manager and let's see how many records are there. So if I would go with the all records, right now there are 761 records. So now if I would insert 200, so that count should ideally becomes 961. 961 it should become. So now I would be executing this. And so it has been executed. If you would go to the debug log, you can definitely check over there that see, using only one DML statement out of 150, you have used only one DML statement. But even though with using one DML, you have inserted 200 records. How much you can do? You can 10,000. I mean, you can perform the DML operation on 10,000 records. All right. So that is what it is. So now if you would go and if you try to refresh, 761 plus 200 would become 961 records. So even though you can check for this, like if you would go to DML, I guess that should, why it's coming like this? This has to become, just a moment. Uh-huh. That is what I was looking. Anyways. So now I have sorted this from A to Z. So now we could see those. After Apex, I guess it's going to load the DML. These are the records. DML HR record number 1 till number 200. Okay, so this is the way we can use we can make a use of DML statements. This is the way we can make a use of a DML statement. All right. Now let me let me try to twist this program a little bit so that I could make you aware about a second technique of this. All right. Let me try to modify this program a little bit so that you could understand a new thing. I would be making changes like do we already have bulk? Oh, we have bulk HR records. Do we have test? I don't think so. Test HR record. The value is Pune. Test HR record. And the value of number is 11, 22, 33, 44, and 55. Let me make those changes. Let me try to save them. And see, I'm trying to twist this program a little bit. If you can see that if you would try to insert a new record, I can see that contact number or maybe the email ID. This seems to be a mandatory field. All right. So that means if you would try to insert a record, you must always give the value of contact number as well as the email ID because they are a required field. Now what I'm going to do, look over here. Look over here. I would be checking one statement. If the counter, the value of the counter, if the value of the counter, let's say, is not equals to 90, if the value of the counter is not equals to 90, then this value is getting inserted. All right. Let me try to explain you what I did in this case. And let me make this 200, 100, whatever. So I am trying to insert 100 hiring manager records. All right. I'm trying to insert the 100 hiring manager records. That's why to follow the process of bulkification, I have defined a list collection. Now I have created a loop. This loop would going to be get iterated for the next 100 times. After that, inside the loop, I have created the local object of this class so that I can refer with the help of this object. I can refer the names of the fields, the members of the classes. I have supplied the value of name as well as for value for the location, value for the email ID, but particularly for the contact number, I have applied a condition. Now, if the counter is not equals to 99, so in the first case, the value of counter is 1. So in the first case, the value of the counter is 1. So 1 is not equals to 99. 1 is not equals to 99. Condition is true. And if the condition is true, it would enter inside in this. It would give the value of contact number. It would assign the value of contact number as this. Then the value of counter becomes 2 because we have implemented counter plus plus. And again, it comes back into the loop because 2 is less than 100. 2 is less than 100, so it comes inside the loop. And it would, I mean, after creating this whole records, it come to check this condition. 2 is again not equals to 99. So it would assign this value to contact number. 3 is again not equals to 99. 4 is not equals to 99. So this would happen for all of them. Up to 98, everything goes good. Then the value of counter becomes 99. So it come inside, it would create this record. And then this condition, 99 not equals to 99. No, 99 actually equals to 99. But because the condition is 99 is not equals to 99 is false. So for 99th record, I was trying to insert 100 record. Out of them, for first 98, there is no issue. But for 99th record, the second last record, this condition is getting failed. This condition is getting failed. Guys, could you please give me a moment? Yes, anyways. I've I have been logged out. So that's why I was trying to check why I have been logged out. Just give me a moment, guys. Let me try to log in once again. Otherwise, this is going to be get ended soon. I don't know what happened, but I was being logged out. If by the way, if we got disconnected, if we got disconnected, you have to join once again. All right. All right. See, so what I have implemented with this program is for all first 98 records, everything seems to be good. Now, particularly for this 99th record, the value of counter becomes 99, and this condition is typically getting failed because 99 actually is equals to 99, whereas I have put up a condition that it should not equals to 99. So what I can say would be like for 99th record, the value of contact number is not going to be get generated. This record, 99th record, is not going to have a value for the contact number. I hope this is clear to every one of you. For 99th record particularly, there is no value of contact number is getting assigned. By the way, contact number, this one, seems to be a mandatory field. Now, what is going to be happen in this case? All right, all right. So let me try to execute this program once again. We presently have 700 and how many? 761 records. So if I would be inserting next 100, that counts obviously becoming 1061. All right. 1061 records. So I'm trying to insert them once again. Let me try to execute this and I would execute this. See, system.dml exception, because this time there's nothing related to limit. You are within the limits, but there is certain things related to DML. System.dml exception, insertion has been failed. And why insertion has been failed? The first exception generated as 98. I mean, for first 98, the record was inserted. Although, but after 98, required field is missing. And that required field is which field? Contact number. Which field? Contact number. And see, nothing has been inserted. If you go back to this, if you would refresh this, the count is still same 961 record. So what is my conclusion over here? What is my conclusion over here? My conclusion is even though just one record get failed, see, there was no ambiguity, there was no error for 99 records, right? For next 99 records. I can make this as 100 as well, no problem. I could say that for the 100 out of 100 records, for the first 99 records, all of them were absolutely okay. Just all because of one record. Just because of one record. Because the last record, where the value of counter is 100, and 100 not equals to 100, the condition fails. And for that 100th record, the value of contact number was not getting generated. But just because of that one record, just because of that one record, the entire process is getting terminated. The entire process is getting terminated. This is called as rollback. This is called as rollback. The system has rolled back the entire execution and nothing has been happened. Nothing has been happened. And the another word for this, I hope you guys are writing all this. Another word for this is maintaining transaction. Maintaining transaction. So whenever a DML is executed by default, DML always maintain transactions. Whenever a DML is getting executed, any DML, not just with DML, not just with the insert, any one of them. If you are using insert, delete, update, any one of them, any DML statement, they always maintain transaction. They are atomic in nature. While performing, see what are the limitations with the DML statements. Go with this theory. The DML statements, they are atomic in nature. They always maintain transaction. They always maintain, they are purely atomic. What does this atomic actually means? Atomic means getting executed in group. That means if, for example, what just we have seen, there were 100 records that were trying to get inserted. Out of those 100, 99 does not have any issues. 99 were absolutely fine. But just because one record is getting failed, the whole transaction get rolled back. The whole transaction, the complete transaction was dismissed. The complete transaction was cancelled just because of one record. So what is this? What is this? Either the complete transaction is getting committed, either whenever you are using a DML statement like insert, what I can say, either all 100 records are going to be got inserted, all 100 records are getting committed, or all 100 records are getting failed. So even if a one record get fails, that makes an impression with all others. So that's something is called as atomicity. All right, this is something called as atomicity. So this is what does happens with a DML. So DML have this limitation, guys. If you are using a DML statement, and with that DML, if you're trying to insert something, you're trying to update something, you're trying to delete something, you're trying to upsert, merge something, whatever you are trying, whatever your operation would be out of this 6, that operation is applicable. That operation is applicable to complete set of record. That operation is applicable to complete set of record. DML does not provide you partial processing. DML does not provide you partial processing. DMLs are atomic in nature. DML maintains transaction. DML does not provide partial processing. That means if you are using a DML statement, there are only two things which could happen. Either the complete record is getting committed, either the complete record is getting committed, When I say committed, it means whatever the operation. If you are inserting, I will say inserted. If you are updating, I'll say updated, deleted, merged, undeleted. So either the complete set of record was going to be get committed or it is going to be get rolled back. Either the complete transaction would be executed or the complete transaction is getting failed. So DML is always applied on the complete transaction. There's no such thing partial processing. Half of them would be committed, and I mean the records, those who are getting problem, they are ignored. No, this does not happens with DML. DML does not provide you this facility. All right. So that is an important thing to know at this moment. What is the remedy of that? We are going to discuss this with the next lecture. Tomorrow, we are going to get a discussion on this. What would happen? I mean, what should be done in that case? And then after that, I'm going to discuss a very important thing related to real-time scenario. Once you know these two things, then I would be discussing an important thing related to real-time scenarios. So today, at least by the end of this session, what we have understood, we first of all have understood how to use a DML. Whenever you are using a DML, you always should follow the best practices. There are the two best practices. You should never give a DML inside a loop. We haven't given that. This is my loop. Nowhere inside the loop I have written the DML statement. Second, we should always follow the process of bulkification. Now for the bulkification, we have defined a collection, and inside the loop, I have added individual record into this collection, and then out of the loop, we have again check for a best practices. Whenever we are dealing with a collection, we should always check for the null pointer exception. We should always check for the null pointer exception. If the collection is not empty, then and then only I would initiate this DML operation. So this is the first thing, how to use a DML with along with the best practices. That was the first thing. That was your point number one. With this program, we understood like how to use a DML along with all of the best practices. This is that program. This is that program. This is that program. Second, we have understood the nature of DML statement. Today's session is absolutely an important session. So we have understood with the same program, we also came to know about the nature of DML statement. What is the nature of DML? DML is a family man. DML is a family man, is a very responsible person who take the responsibility of complete family in one transaction. Either it would going to feed the complete family, otherwise the complete family is going to get starved. So either DML, whenever you are using a DML, it's going to be get applied for the complete set of record. Either the whole batch of those record would be executed, would be inserted, would be committed. Otherwise, the complete batch of the record is going to be get failed. That is what is a DML. सारे रिकॉर्ड्स या तो इंसर्ट, अपडेट, डिलीट, अपसर्ट, मर्ज होंगे और या फिर उनमें से कोई भी नहीं होगा, चाहे फॉल्ट 1 में, 2 में, 3 में क्यों ना हो. या तो सब कुछ कमिट होगा या कुछ भी कमिट नहीं होगा. That is what is called as maintaining the transaction and not providing partial processing. तो कल हम इस पे फिर कंटिन्यू करेंगे और कल हम देखेंगे कि अब इसके आगे क्या करना चाहिए. और यहाँ से हम दो अलग अलग पहलुओं पे बात करने वाले हैं. आज का और कल का सेशन ये काफी ज्यादा इंपॉर्टेंट है डीएमएल्स को समझने के हिसाब से. ठीक है, आज हमने इसका एक हिस्सा जान लिया है, कल हम इसके दूसरे हिस्से पे बात करेंगे और फिर हम ये जानने की कोशिश करेंगे कि हाँ अब इसके आगे क्या कैसे लेके जाना. ठीक है, चलिए. सो दैट्स ऑल फॉर टुडे गाइस. कीप दिस क्यूरियोसिटी. या एनी क्वेश्चंस? एनी क्वेश्चंस? कोई
सर
सवाल? हाँ रुचिरा बोलिए.
सॉरी बट मुझे एटॉमिक का मीनिंग नहीं
एटॉमिक
समझा.
का मतलब, एटॉमिक का मतलब मेरे हिसाब से तो यही है कि सारी चीजें इकट्ठे एक साथ एग्जीक्यूट होना, या फिर उनमें से किसी का भी एग्जीक्यूशन नहीं होगा. दैट इज व्हाट इज एटॉमिक. राइट. दैट इज व्हाट इज एन एटॉमिक. मतलब I don't know how this word actually get generated, but if you would try to see the background of this word, what does it means by an atom? Do we have any student from science background over here? If I would ask you, what is an atom? Come on, what are the properties of an atom? क्या किसी को पता है इसका आंसर क्या है? What is an atom, by the way? Every element have atoms inside. Come on यार, कोई तो होगा.
Atomic number.
Mm-hmm.
Which consist of protons and neutrons and
Yes,
something.
yes, something. Every element, even our body, and every element have the tiniest element inside. Every property is always an atom. I'm not a science student, but still I know this because physics was something which was very horrible to me. So atom consists of a neutron in between, and there are two particles that makes a revolution of that. In the center, there is always a neutron, there's a proton, and there is an electron, which actually accelerate, which actually revolves around this. Protons carries positive charge, negative charge are beings on the electrons. That's what I know. Now, when I say atom, they are tightly coupled, isn't it? When if a neutron would move, it would always move along with protons and electrons. It is not possible that you can segregate neutrons and protons. All right. So basically, when we say that atom means a combined entity. When it moves along with its old structure. If an atom is moving, it's moving along with electrons and protons and neutrons. So that could be a definition of this. I mean, I'm not sure what, but maybe this could be a definition. Like when I say that DML are atomic in nature, that means whenever DMLs are committed, they are committed in whole. They are not committed in partial. That half of the statements getting committed, half of them is getting failed. So this is not happens with the DML. I guess this helps you out,
Yes, sir.
right?
Thank you.
Good morning,
Yes.
sir.
Good morning.
सर कॉन्टैक्ट फील्ड मैंडेटरी थी इसलिए मतलब रिकॉर्ड हायर नहीं हुई है क्या?
I have seen that contact was a mandatory field, so that's why I have implemented my logic on contact. I mean, this would, obviously, very obviously, because here you are trying to skip a contact. See, this not just with the program. Even though if you would try to create a record over here, let's say a test, and you would supply the email ID as test@test.com, you would also give the value for this. All right, but you would not supply the value of contact number. Here also you are going to get the same result, right? You must enter a value. So if the value, if a field is a mandatory field, you must supply the value. Now see over here at this moment, I wanted to discuss one more thing. This field, if I would take you to the page layout, right? If we would go to this page layout, for example, you can see that contact number and everything, right? So if I would take you to the page layout, let me take you first of all to, let me try to open a record. And then if I would take you to the page layout. All right. Can anyone of you please tell me how many different ways you could make a field required? Yeah, come on. Can anyone? Mm-hmm.
5 ways.
Page layout, validation rule, apex trigger, and visual force.
All right, that's very good. There are 5 different ways at least. At least there are 5 different. Let's talk about first 3 of them. You can make a field required by required checkbox. You can make it required by the page layout customization. You can make it required from the validation rule. Now see, if you would see over here, contact number have this blue dot red star, whereas email ID have only red star. What does it means, guys? What does it means? Come on, tell me. What does it means?
So it is mandatory on database only.
Which one?
HR email ID.
HR email ID, sorry, थोड़ा सा गलत हो गया. HR email ID is mandatory only on the page layout. only on the page layout. It is not mandatory at database level. Okay. Whereas if you would see the contact number is mandatory in the both levels. That means if you are creating a record from the page layout, right? If you are creating a record from the page layout, from here, if you are creating a record, that time as well, I mean, HR email ID as well. But if you are creating a record from the program, that time as well. This blue dot stands for if you are creating a record from the program as well. If you are inserting that directly into the database, that time as well. This contact number field is mandatory. That's why I have taken contact number. Let's see what happens if I would take HR email ID in this program. Now see, I'll make the changes. That's a very good point. If I would say this, I have supplied the value of contact number. Let me okay. So we have given the value of contact number. Now I would write down a condition over here. If the value of counter is not equals to, let's say 99. Okay, chalo. So what would happening in this case? So every record is getting the value of contact number for sure. Every record, particularly for 99th record, the email ID is not. I mean, we are not giving the value of email ID, right? But if you would see the email ID field, if you would see it over here, it seems that email ID is a mandatory field. When I go to the page layout customization internally, I came to know that email ID is just mandatory, but on the page layout. So if I would be creating a record from this front end, from this page layout, I must supply the value of email ID. All right, I must supply the value of email ID if I am creating a record from the page layout. But as you can see, I'm not creating a record from page layout. This I'm creating directly. I would be creating this on the database. Let's now execute this program. Do you get any error? No. We didn't get any error. Even the 100 records have been inserted. Even all those 100 records have been inserted. Now, if you would go to this, if you would go to this, you can now see that there would be 1067, something like that. See, 1061. That 100 records have been inserted. You can find it out over here. If you जाते हो तो आपको मिल भी जाएगा. What do you get from here? Come on, what do you get? Now, this is an absolutely a proof of one concept what we have studied long back. There are two ways to make a field mandatory. At least let's discuss on those two. By the required checkbox and by the page layout customization. This field contact number, let me show you that. Let's extend this discussion for next 5 minutes. See, if you would see this, I mean, contact number. Yes, let me try to edit this. See, this field contact number, you make it required by the required checkbox. When you click this required checkbox, this field becomes a required field on both. On both means what? It becomes a required field on page layout as well as in the database table. That means if somebody is trying to create a record, records can be created by two ways. We have studied this. Not just with two ways, 2 to 3 ways are there. अभी तो मैं दो ही में बात करता हूँ. एक, अगर आप record create कर रहे हो from this page layout यहाँ से, और दूसरा अगर आप रिकॉर्ड क्रिएट कर रहे हो डायरेक्टली डेटाबेस पे, मतलब किसी प्रोग्राम से, जैसे कि ये एक प्रोग्राम है. तो इफ यू आर क्रिएटिंग अ रिकॉर्ड ईदर फ्रॉम द पेज लेआउट और विद द हेल्प ऑफ प्रोग्राम, कॉन्टैक्ट नंबर वुड बी अ मैंडेटरी फील्ड. तुमने अगर उसका वैल्यू नहीं दिया तो तुमको एरर आना है, और जो कि हमको आया भी था. अभी मैंने सेम लॉजिक देखो. अभी HR ईमेल आईडी ये फील्ड अगर आप देख रहे हो तो यहाँ पर सिर्फ एक रेड स्टार दिख रहा है. उसका रीजन ये है कि HR ईमेल आईडी को अगर मैं देखता हूँ, इफ आई वुड सी दिस, लेट मी टेक यू बैक टू दिस, एंड इफ आई वुड सी HR ईमेल आईडी, HR email ID अगर आप देखते हो, इसको हमने रिक्वायर्ड नहीं किया है यहाँ से. This is not required from here. But this seems to be required by why? Because you make it required from the page layout customization. पेज लेआउट कस्टमाइजेशन से आपने इसको रिक्वायर्ड कर रखा है, isn't it? यहाँ से रिक्वायर्ड कर रखा. तो अब जब आपने उसे पेज लेआउट पे रिक्वायर्ड कर रहा है तो ये सिर्फ यहाँ पे एप्लीकेबल है. अगर यहाँ से रिकॉर्ड क्रिएट कर रहे हो तो ये एप्लीकेबल है. When you are creating this record from a program directly database पे, आपने वैल्यू सप्लाई नहीं किया, you haven't supplied the value. You haven't supplied the value for 99th record. उसके बावजूद रिकॉर्ड क्रिएट हुआ, कोई एरर नहीं आया. Why? Because I am not creating this record from page layout. Rather, I am creating directly into the database. And while in database, ये जो फील्ड है आपकी, ये मैंडेटरी नहीं है. ये एक बहुत बड़ा डिफरेंस है. ये एक बहुत बड़ा डिफरेंस है. एंड दिस इज गोइंग टू बी गेट आस्क्ड इन द इंटरव्यू. व्हाट इज अ डिफरेंस between making a field required from required checkbox and making a field required from a page layout customization? What is a difference? What is the difference between making the field required from required checkbox and from the page layout customization? I hope ये चीज अब इस वक्त आप सभी को समझ में आ चुकी है. Yes, any more question? Whoever has asked this, thank you so much for asking. But this is why I always motivate you guys to ask the questions. Sometimes what would happen that you ask me a question and immediately I get a clue to explain you something else apart from, but maybe connected thing. So I have explained all because somebody has asked me a question, right? That's why I always say, please ask the question. Please ask the question. ये फायदा होता है. देखो, तो कनेक्टेड कंसेप्ट था, आज हमको क्लियर हो गया. ऑल बिकॉज समबडी हैज आस्क्ड द क्वेश्चन. किसी ने वो सवाल पूछा, जो भी पूछा मुझे नहीं पता, याद नहीं था, बट ये फायदा होता है. एनीथिंग एल्स टू बी गेट डिस्कस्ड? यस. और कोई क्वेश्चन है? Any more questions? Any more questions? All right, then thank you so much for joining. Please do all those assignments I have not given although, but yeah, what is the program what we have taken today? Try to implement the same program in all these ways, like which we did, right? Go with that. Thank you so much for joining.